My grandparents were Alexander and Henrietta Minty, and my grandfather owned the corn store, which still exists, and which used to lie beside the railway, just off New Street. And in its day, it was an important business. His son, Samuel Hatton Minty, was about 20 or so when the First World War broke out and went to war. And my grandfather always thought he would come back and carry on the business. But in fact, he got Spanish flu immediately after the war and died in Germany. So my grandfather was heartbroken, not only for himself, but because the business was not going to be able to continue. But in the 1930s, he sold it to a huge international corporation called Ranks. The building went into decline, really. It was used by Grimes Furniture Company as a storage warehouse, and it's now offices, I think. I measured the entire station and its buildings and so on, and having done so, I decided to use the drawings that I'd made to make this representation. And I happened to be spending a lot of time in Tenerife, where I had a huge model railway. So what else do you do is put Ringwood Station on my model railway. The middle part of this represents the station as it was first built, which includes those lovely chimneys, which you can see are quite unusual in the middle. And then over the years, various bits were added because the station got busier. The water towers at the back became important because Ringwood had a supply of water which was not available at places up in the forest and things like that. And the Christchurch trains used to come from there. And then in about 1860 something, they also made this footbridge, which had a history of its own because it had been at Woking in Surrey. And when the line at Woking was widened, they couldn't use it anymore. So they had all this left over. That's why it is this rather sort of mixture of corrugated iron and boarding and so on. One of the biggest problems was bringing it back from Tenerife without getting it damaged, so I had to make a special container for it. It probably took about 2 years, something like that. The hardest part, actually, was the footbridge. If you look at it intimately, it's got to be fitted into the appropriate places in the station, and that was quite difficult. And it's got representations of, down here, these bits were made originally from old railway lines, because it was sort of put together from this old one, and that's what I had to reproduce. So it's quite complicated. I wouldn't do it again.